The studio today by Ali Renault and Stevie Nicol. Later on in the programme, we'll talk about Liverpool in crisis already. Despite all that big spending, they were thrashed by Milan earlier today. We'll be reflecting on what that means at the start of the season. But we'll kick things off with news that Arsenal have been waiting to hear from for a while. Victor Gyökeres is officially an Arsenal player, making that switch from Portugal to London. It's 63 million euros plus add-ons as well. Of course, a man who just tore up the Portuguese league, goal scoring for fun last season, has made that move, and he becomes the fourth biggest transfer in Arsenal's history. Declan Rice, Pepe and Kai Havertz, 1, 2 and 3. For more on this, Gab Marcotti joins us. We're hearing from Gab in a moment. But Stevie, what sort of game changer is this for Arsenal with regards to their title hopes?
I think this absolutely puts them in the race to win the title. They've definitely taken a step forward getting this guy. What they needed was somebody who was basically a penalty box predator. That is what they needed. They've needed it for probably more than 2 or 3 years, and they've finally got it. You know, a guy who doesn't really want to be involved outside the box. Mm-hmm. He doesn't really want to go and be a link-up player. He can do that if he needs to, but he doesn't want to do that. He wants to score goals. He wants to be in the penalty box, putting the ball in the back of the net. Exactly what they've needed. Now they've got it.
Where does it put them in regards to Liverpool in that title race?
Well, just below Liverpool, but very much in the conversation, very much in the picture. And so in terms of numbers, and you just mentioned that he tore up the Portuguese league, La Primera Liga. 39 goal score domestically. How does that translate into EPL numbers? Well, we don't know that. But for sake of argument and sake of comparison, and we're going to have to compare, because if we're talking about Arsenal being in the picture with Liverpool, well, the leading goal scorer in the Premier League last year domestically was Mohamed Salah with 29 goals. So somehow we need to project that 39 goals in Portugal, it's equals to 29 goals in the Premier League. But if indeed that's a projection, and if indeed it ends up working out that way for Arsenal, where Gyökeres is scoring that number of goals, or somewhere in the picture where he's competitive with Mohamed Salah, where he's competitive with Erling Haaland, then Arsenal are very much in the conversation, and should be very much in the conversation.
But Gab, we know how much you and Jules love Kai Havertz. There's been plenty of Gab and Jules shows where you've waxed lyrical about him, how he's not given enough credit, how he plays the way that Arteta wants to play this game. Gyökeres, a very different beast. What does this mean for Arsenal's tactics then going forward?
Well, I think overall it means broadly two things, and I think they both very clearly revolve around Mikel Arteta. First of all, it means that Arteta's gone in, because when you sign somebody, he's pushed the chips to the middle of the table. When you sign somebody who's 27 years old, for that much money to play this role, you're saying, okay, the future is now. We're going to go in. You know, we've had the youngest team in the Premier League for a while now, or one of the youngest teams. Now this is kind of the piece of the puzzle, and there's no escaping. This is a gamble. This is a person who really hasn't done it in a top league, with all due respect to Portugal. So you have to take a bit of a flight of fancy. He's also a guy who's a late developer as well, right? Because, you know, he was at Coventry and then Sporting before that. He struggled to have an impact at Brighton. So in that sense, you're saying, all right, we're pushing our chips into the table and we want to win now. At the same time, though, I think it also shows from Arteta's perspective, hey, Mikel Arteta can change his mind. Because it wasn't that long ago that he thought that Kai Havertz, not only was Kai Havertz going to be the answer at center forward, and for me personally, I think he still could have been, although he certainly needed help, but he believed in Kai Havertz so much that, you know, he let Nketiah go. He didn't go into the season with a reserve center forward, unless you believe Gabriel Jesus is that man, which I think nobody believes. When Jesus got hurt, they didn't sign a backup for Havertz in January, and then we know what happened. Havertz got hurt too. So we're showing that Arteta is saying, like, all right, I believed this before, now I believe something else. I don't have a problem with it at all. I think it's a sign of intelligence when you can change your mind, when you can react to situations, and it's a sign of humility as well. But it certainly is a major change in direction, And it is a lot of money, and it says a lot about where you're putting your resources right now, that you're putting it into this profile of player, rather than something else, especially, of course, when you've got the Saliba situation and the Ethan Ranieri situation to deal with as well.
How much is what happened to Arsenal last season forced his hand in this?
100%. I think Gab's been very kind to Arteta. You know, I would have expected Jules to say what Gab just said. I mean, let's be honest. He's been forced into it. People have been talking about the centre forward position for at least 2 years. At least 2 years. And now, having fobbed all the people like us and other coaches and anybody who you wanted to talk about with Arsenal, everybody said the same thing. And he said, no, I know better. Well, up until now, he hasn't known better, and he's been forced into this. So I'm not giving him huge amounts of credit, to be honest.
Right.
I don't think he had a choice.
The narrative has also changed from the perspective of Mikel Arteta, in that earlier this week he was talking about how there would be 9 teams competing for the title.
Yeah, right.
That he's already deflecting, and let's talk about that group, that team. Don't focus on us. You make this sort of investment, you make this sort of signing, the attention is going to be on Arsenal whether he wants it or not. If indeed, as Gab just said and alluded to it, if indeed you're pushing all the chips to the middle, well, that's because you're willing to play it for everything, for all. You're willing to lose it all, you're risking it all. And if you're going to risk it all, you're not going to risk it all behind 8 other teams, allow them to take the pressure. No. You want to be in the conversation, you want to be in the dance, then assume the role of one of the front runners in this league. And they are going to have to be. Arsenal are good enough to be at the front of this league and at the top of this league, but now it's a matter of delivering on the field with decisions made by the coach and the execution made by the players.
Is that Arsenal done now when it comes to the transfers, Gab?
Well, I would have thought you need to move some players out now, because if you're just looking at resources in terms of starter money, right, and who expects to start, if you just look at in midfield, for example, right, you signed Zubimendi for a reason. He's going to be your anchor in midfield. You think that leaves 2 spots, assuming they play 4-3-3. You've got Martin Odegaard, who's your team captain, and you have Declan Rice, who was arguably your best player last year, right? But then somewhere, if Gyökeres is going to play center forward, you're going to want to fit in Kai Havertz. You've also spent a lot of money on Mikel Merino too. Havertz is on starter money. He costs you starter money. You have to find a way to integrate him. So I wouldn't be surprised now if they start moving some guys out. Obviously, they picked up Madueke already on the wing. I don't know if Madueke's, presumably he's there to compete for a job as a left wing, even though he mostly played on the right at Chelsea, because Arsenal's right winger is pretty good, right? Bukayo Saka. I think the priority now has got to be lock up Saliba and Ranieri for the foreseeable future. Otherwise, you would expect some adjustments.
Yeah, but Gab, you mentioned the likes of Marino and Havertz. They're not going anywhere, though.
Okay, so how happy is Havertz going to be in this situation? I mean, Kai Havertz
but who's
is like,
paying,
look,
what do we say in that graphic? 70 million? Like, no one's paying that for Kai Havertz now.
No, but through the magic of amortization, young Dan, you know that after 2 years at Arsenal, you're looking at maybe 50 million, 55 million. You can get that money back. He is on big wages. It's not easy. But Kai Havertz, when fit, leaving aside is he a striker, is he not a striker, whatever, he's a pressing machine.
He's not 50 million worth, though. No one's paying 50 million for Kai Havertz, Gab.
I'm sorry. I can think of, all right, put it this way. If I were Manchester United, instead of screwing around with Mateus Cunha and Mbeumo, if you've got that position with the 2 jokers behind the center forward, I would put Kai Havertz in there in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he'll buy his own ticket to go to Manchester United at the moment.
Well, I think Kai Havertz has a market. He's likely to start for Germany at the World Cup. I mean, it's not like all of a sudden, because Kai Havertz has been injured for 4 months, it's not like Kai Havertz becomes some sort of bird dropping or something that you just want to get rid of, right? But I think at some point, they have to figure a way back. Martinelli's another guy who's been linked with a move. I would assume they'd want to rebalance a little bit, rebalance the squad, and also get some money back into.
All right, Gooners, gather round because we're living through absolute madness at the Emirates right now. Victor Gyökeres is officially an Arsenal player as of yesterday, and I'm buzzing like I've just witnessed us lift the Premier League trophy. This Swedish goal machine has just put pen to paper for 63.8 million. That's 55.1 million guaranteed, plus 8.7 million in add-ons, making him our fourth biggest signing ever. We're talking Declan Rice, Pepe, and Kai Havertz territory here. And honestly, this feels different. This feels like we finally mean business. Now, I know what you're thinking. Another striker? What about Havertz? Listen, I've been banging on about needing a proper number 9 for years, and so have you lot. We've watched Kai try his best, bless him, but Gyökeres is a different animal entirely. This bloke bagged 39 goals in the Portuguese league just this past season. 39! That's the sort of penalty box predator we've been crying out for since the days of Van Persie, if I'm being brutally honest. Before we dive deeper into what this means for our title hopes this coming season, and trust me, we're having that conversation, smash that subscribe button if you haven't already. We're building something special here, a proper community of Arsenal fans who aren't afraid to speak the truth, whether it's good or bad. Your support means everything, and it keeps us going through all the ups and downs of supporting this beautiful, maddening club of ours. What's got me properly excited is what Steve Nicol said on ESPN. This signing puts us right in the title race for 2025-26. And you know what? He's absolutely spot on. We've been knocking on the door for the past couple of seasons, playing some gorgeous football under Arteta, but we've lacked that clinical edge in the box. Remember those games last season where we dominated possession, created chances for fun, but couldn't stick the bloody ball in the net? Those days might be behind us now. The numbers don't lie, do they? Salah just won the Golden Boot this past season with 29 goals. That's our new benchmark. If Gyökeres can translate even 3/4 of his Portuguese form to the Premier League, we're looking at a player who could genuinely challenge Mohamed for that Golden Boot next season. Imagine having someone in our team who defenders actually fear. Someone who gives City's backline nightmares. It's been too long since we had that. But here's where it gets interesting for Arteta's tactics going into the new campaign. We've all seen how the gaffer likes his false nines, his intricate passing, his players dropping deep to link play. Gyökeres is a complete opposite. He's a proper old school striker who lives in the box, waiting for service, ready to pounce on half chances. It's a massive tactical shift, and honestly, it shows Arteta's willing to evolve, willing to admit when something isn't working. The elephant in the room is obviously what this means for Kai Havertz. The German's not going anywhere. You don't just bin off a $70 million player, but his role's definitely changing. Maybe this is the competition our squad needed. When you've also got Martin Zubimendi pulling strings from deep after his 51 millimeter move from Real Sociedad, suddenly our midfield looks proper tasty. Competition breeds excellence, and if Havertz wants his spot, he'll have to fight for it. Looking at the bigger picture, this transfer window sends a message to the rest of the league. We're not just happy making up the numbers anymore. Liverpool, City, even Newcastle, they know we mean business now. When you splash 63.8 diameters on a striker after already bringing in Zubimendi, Kepa, Christian Norgard, and Noni Madueke, you're not planning for next season or the season after. You're planning to win now this season, and that's exactly the mentality we need at this football club.